Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to this edition of the News in English with me, Serge Nhore, and
Olive Nete.
We'll start with the headlines as usual. President Paul Kagame and First Lady Jeanette Kagame have attended the coronation of King Charles III. Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente has represented President Paul Kagame at the 11th Regional Oversight Mechanism Summit. Rwanda's ministry in charge of emergency management has warned people affected by this week's flooding and landslides against returning to their homes in high-risk zones as the rainy season continues. And people in Rwanda have been reacting to the World Health Organization's announcement that COVID-19 is no longer a global health emergency.
Now the news in details. On Saturday, King Charles III was officially coronated as the King of the United Kingdom in a ceremony which brought together about 2,000 people from various parts of the world, including heads of state and government and other dignitaries. It was a ceremony that lasted about 2 hours. The President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, who is also the current chair in office of the Commonwealth, and the First Lady of Rwanda, His Excellency Jeanette Kagame, attended the coronation ceremony of King Charles III. King Charles III became the King of the United Kingdom in September 2022 after the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who had been on the throne for 70 years.
Now, moving on, Her Excellency Jeanette Kagame, the First Lady of Rwanda, has pointed out that by giving women a chance to participate in decision-making bodies, Rwanda has been able to address problems that had previously gone unaddressed. She reiterated this in her speech on strategies to deal with cervical cancer on Friday in a meeting that brought together First Ladies of member countries of the Commonwealth. We have the details on that.
Her Excellency Jeanette Kagame, the First Lady of Rwanda, reiterated on how Rwanda provided women and girls the chance to be included in decision-making roles, opening up the possibility of addressing issues affecting women generally, including diseases like cervical cancer.
Rwandan women are centered in all aspects of our lives. Their presence in high-level positions of leadership float above 50% in our ministries and 61% in our parliament. These numbers are indicative of a few things. Firstly, that Rwandans know how pivotal and crucial the contribution of women is in governance, and all other aspects of society and community. Our country knows it needs its women to thrive for it to thrive. Secondly, women are now in positions to advance the causes that primarily affect them, alongside those that affect men. We acknowledge that having women in these high-level decision-making positions allows for the full recognition of gender-sensitive issues, where they were once overlooked, minimized, or simply misunderstood. And as a result, we have been able to take bold steps in eliminating cervical cancer as a public health problem as early as 2030.
Her Excellency Jeanette Kagame also emphasized on Rwanda's efforts to prevent cervical cancer, noting that 90% of girls received the vaccine since the program initiation in 2011.
Allow me to share a few figures since the launch of our national HPV vaccine program in 2011. We've witnessed a coverage of 93% of our population of young girls since its introduction. And the past 5 years were also marked by 30% of eligible women screened for cervical cancer. The treatment of precancerous lesions were decentralized, allowing 92% of women in need to receive treatment at the level of primary health care facilities. We need not be experts in fields of science or philanthropists while with the infinite funds. Advocacy and the expansion of awareness in itself, combined with the willingness to have these important conversations and drive the necessary campaigns, can be splendid catalysts of change.
The First Lady also stressed the need of cooperation of countries in dealing with various challenges, which presents an opportunity for the countries that are members of the Commonwealth, since cooperation makes everything possible.
Now moving ahead, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente is in Bujumbura, Burundi for the 11th Regional Oversight Mechanism Summit. The summit tackled on the implementation of peace, security and trade treaties in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Great Lakes region. We do have details with Prince Manzi.
In this summit, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente represented President Paul Kagame. The summit was participated in by East African Community Heads of State and the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. The summit tackled on the implementation and challenges to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia treaties of February 24, 2013 on regional security, especially in the DRC. The summit also tackled on the implementation of Nairobi and Rwanda treaties on security in Eastern DRC. One of the resolutions of this summit included denouncing armed groups, including FDLR, and requesting the Democratic Republic of Congo to denounce hate speeches and supporting investigations on killings targeting civilians.
Nous condamnons en outre les actions des groupes armés étrangers et locaux.
We denounce armed groups in Eastern DRC, including ADF, Madina, MTM, FDLR, Red Tabara, Codeco, Milice Zaire, Mai Mai. We request them now to stop their activities and members return in their normal lives, and foreign armed groups members to start returning in their countries. In this summit, the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi, like the usual, accused the government of Rwanda to be the reason behind the insecurities in his country. But the chairperson of the African Union, Moussa Faki Mahamat, demonstrated that playing the blame game will not provide solutions to the issue.
Les tensions n'ont pas baissé si elles ne se sont pas exacerbées.
Tensions did not stop. Instead, they ameliorated. Tangible solutions are not yet available. This is the time to speak the truth and making decisions that are effective. I do not think that this is the right time to play the blame game. In reference of all the decisions previously taken, including those of the African Union, we have to truly evaluate ourselves.
Nous interpeller pour un réel examen de conscience.
The Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, reiterated that for peace to be sustainable, voices of innocent lives affected by the insecurities in Eastern DRC are to be heard.
And for peace to be sustainable, the voices of women, young people and displaced persons must be fully heard in all political, security and judicial processes. Let's not forget them. Excellencies, I encourage the signatory countries, the African Union, the International Conference of the Great Lakes region and the Southern African Development Community to redouble their efforts. In this context, I welcome the initiative taken by the Peace and Security Council of the African Union in February to revitalize the framework. The United Nations remains fully engaged by your side. Only together can we achieve the common objectives of peace, security and cooperation of the Addis Ababa framework.
The Democratic Republic of Congo continues to collaborate with the FDLR and other militias in Eastern DRC, but according to the Deputy Director General for Africa of the European External Action Service, Bernard Quentin, the European Union is concerned with this collaboration as not only in North and South Kivu is insecurities, but also in Ituri.
Il ne peut y avoir de collaboration avec les groupes armés, en ce compris les FDLR et certains...
There should not be collaboration with militias, including FDLR. We focus on what is happening in South Kivu, but we are also concerned with what is happening in Ituri. We denounce military operations there. We appreciate the collaboration of the DRC and Uganda Army in fighting ADF. Finally, we are concerned with hate speeches. We request everyone to denounce them.
Et appelons à leur condamnation sans équivoque par tous les acteurs.
The President of Burundi, Evariste Ndayishimiye, who is currently the head of the East African Community, appreciates the partnership of the member states and adds that the regional security is a shared benefit. The summit is held as the Eastern DRC continues to be overwhelmed by the presence of armed groups and peace treaties signed are not implemented as agreed by the heads of state. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Now to matters back here home. The ministry in charge of emergency management is urging people affected by natural disasters and are currently living at temporary sites not to return to their homes in high-risk zones because the rainy season is still ongoing. Meanwhile, 130 billion Rwandan francs is needed to rebuild sustainably the disaster-hit infrastructure in the country. Prince Manzi has more.
After 3 days since floods and landslides hit roughly the western, northern and southern provinces, and 131 people lost their lives in only 24 hours, the Minister in charge of Emergency Management, Marie-Solange Kayisire, reminds the residents of the risk zones relocated to various sites to avoid returning to those risk zones.
We won't prevent a teacher to return there to teach, and parents can take their children at school. During the day, you can continue your activities as long as it is not rainy. They will remain in the established sites just for saving their lives.
Apart from lives lost due to tragic heavy rains, at least 5,000 houses, 2,000 hectares of farms, and 4,000 domestic animals are recorded to have destroyed. In addition are infrastructures like roads, electricity, and others. The Minister of Infrastructure, Dr. Ernest Nsabimana, reiterates that rebuilding the disaster-hit infrastructures requires a large sum of funds.
nk'ubu ibiraro birasaba yuko cyangwa se urebye biratwara hafi miliyari 39 kugira ngo
Like bridges, will require at least 39 billion Rwanda francs to be rebuilt. District roads will require 25 billion, whereas natural roads will require 41 billion. Electricity-related infrastructures will require 5 billion for reconstruction. In simple words, to have again proper infrastructures that are resistant to the climate change, we will need at least 110 billion. Institutions in charge are undertaking an assessment to know the occupation of everyone affected and support house owners and those who rented. The Minister of Local Government, Jean-Claude Musabyimana, urges people to properly use land to prevent disasters. When a disaster like the recent one hit, people in risk zones are affected, but it can also affect even those in other areas that are not too risky. For instance, if you live across the river, definitely due to lack of a way to pass through, water will find ways. It might destroy your house as well as your neighbors. This is what happened in Rwanda district. Across the country, 5,598 houses were destroyed due to floods and landslides. 10,438 people are now living in 112 sites established. At least 130 billion Rwanda francs are needed to rebuild disaster-hit infrastructures. The government of Rwanda established channels for disaster support, and 14 million Rwanda francs have been collected so far through mobile money. Citizens are also reminded to be careful, as the Rwanda Meteorology Agency demonstrated that heavy rainfalls are expected in the first 10 days of May. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
The terrible effects of climate change, and indeed people need to be careful during this rainy season. Those who have left high-risk zones should not return just because it has stopped raining.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, on this matter again, people who were affected by disasters in Rubavu district say that life is returning back to normal, and some of them have resumed their daily activities. Prince Manzi again.
Felix Ingabire is one of the people who survived floods and landslides in Rubavu district. His house was totally destroyed by these disasters.
It was at
2:20 a.m. and the flood came, and after that I immediately rushed out, and when I got outside it was too rainy and there was floods. I first made sure to rescue my baby and his older sibling, and when I returned back to the house the water was overflowing. I got stuck into the house, and other residents rescued me with my wife. On the other hand, Jean Wimana is also at the place where she and her family used to live at Nyundo. She's collecting some of the remains of the house that has been destroyed.
I came to pick some wood and remains of my roof, and I'm also trying to see if there are some bricks that are still fresh so that I can sell them and get some money from it.
In the Rugerero market, traders are confident that life will get better. These traders, mostly women, emphasize that even if the effects of the disasters can't be addressed in one day, life must go on.
Some of them, life is going on, but we truly lost a lot. We lost people, properties, and most of our neighbors are in sorrow. But life goes on, and we are going on with trading activities, and our people are accepting the current situation. What happened has happened, but life goes on. We are also trying to help those who were affected. That is the life we are currently living.
Residents affected by the disaster have been sheltered. They are confident that as the days go by, their lives will improve. This is also emphasized by local authorities, who also points out that the rehabilitation of those affected will be done in stages. Near the College of Gisenyi, preparations are being made to receive the people who will be accommodated in order to reduce overcrowding where they were accommodated. The Muhira Model Village, which was already under construction, is also presented as a sustainable solution to this current challenge. It is expected that in 1 month, it will be ready and some of those affected by the disaster will be relocated in that place. It is expected that in 1 month, it will be ready and those affected by the disaster will be relocated in that place. This village has the capacity to receive 120 families, and it is also expected that it will be followed by a sustainable settlement project for those who have been relocated from high-risk zones.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for that report. Efforts, of course, going on for reconstruction as well as development moving forward despite the natural disasters,
yes,
which is important. And now to another important matter, this time to do with health. Citizens are happy about the World Health Organization declaring COVID-19 no longer a global health emergency. But measures to prevent it will continue nevertheless. We have the details with Sheena Teta.
14th March 2020 was when Rwanda recorded the first case of COVID-19, and the government immediately put various measures that include social distance, washing hands, and staying indoors, implying movement restrictions to prevent the spread of the virus. However, some residents highlight how they have been affected by COVID-19.
We stopped working and everything changed in general.
Depending on how there has been less cases and deaths due to COVID-19 recorded in hospitals around the globe, the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, on Friday declared COVID-19 no longer a global emergency through his Twitter account.
It's therefore with great hope that I declare COVID-19 over as a global health emergency.
Residents have welcomed the news gladly. It is indeed something to be happy about, now that the pandemic is no longer a threat. Prevention comes first, and we should continue to do so.
We still ensure that we respect the measures put in place to prevent the spread of COVID-19, and we pray it does not come back.
Among the reasons as to why COVID-19 has been declared as infectious as other diseases are the COVID-19 vaccines that have been administered to people globally. Dr. Menelas Nyeshimana says that if countries are vigilant enough, COVID-19 will no longer be a threat.
We shall continue to treat and advise people with flu and other signs of COVID-19, and neither will we stop vaccinating them, but some movement restrictions from country to country are no longer there. And if people continue to be cautious, it will not be a worrying disease.
Statistics from Rwanda Biomedical Center show that from 14th March 2020, when Rwanda recorded the first case of COVID-19, to 30th April 2023, 133,334 people have contracted the virus, among which 1,468 people have succumbed to it. Currently, 6,039,643 Rwandans have received 3 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, and those that have received the second confirming dose are 643,377, and so far 1,190,097 children between 5 to 11 years of age have also received 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. Sheena Teta, RTV News.
Now, usually I tell our viewers that it is a pleasure to have them with us, but now I'll tell you, Olive, it was really a pleasure having you with us.
It was a pleasure also to have our viewers around.
Okay, so we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.